Talk about, just give us the definition of a zombie, because I assume you're not talking about the 60s band, and I
Right.
assume you're not talking about The Walking Dead. You're talking about policies that just seem to never want to die.
A zombie idea is an idea that should be dead because it's been proved wrong. It's been tried against experience. It's been, we have the evidence. Should have died long ago, but it just keeps on going, just shambles along and eats people's brains. And it's something like the idea cutting taxes pays for itself because of the wonderful things it does. And a lot of our economic discussion in the United States and some of other areas as well, but economics is most of what I focus on, is not actually between. There's one group of reasonable people who think this, and there's another group of reasonable people who think that. It's between what every reasonable person knows and the zombie idea that refuses to die.
Well, one of the zombie ideas that you have in your book deals with the fear of deficit spending.
Yeah.
And in these times, it would seem to me that we're about to get a boatload of deficit spending. Your thoughts on that?
No problem. I mean, it should do it well, and it's not. Should never completely ignore deficits, but there's absolutely no reason to worry for the United States, for the countries of Western Europe, for Japan. None of us, we're all able to borrow money at extremely low interest rates. There's no hint of a problem. Markets are basically begging us to borrow money, and now we have a whole bunch of urgent needs to spend, both directly to fight this pandemic and also to insulate our economies from the economic fallout. So yeah, deficits. If we react to this the way that a lot of countries reacted to the financial crisis, which was to get all frantic about budget deficits, we can turn what is already going to be a human catastrophe into an economic catastrophe as well.
During the Great Depression, they were able to engage in deficit spending at that point with public works programs.
Yeah.
But if we can't work together, if we can't be in physical proximity to one another, what would you recommend would be the most effective approach in this environment right now in terms of the deficit spending and the programs that they might institute? Because we can't have public works programs.
Well, in fact, construction will probably continue. But no, in any case, what we need right now, this thing is unfolding with incredible speed. It's terrifying speed. It makes the financial crisis of 2008 look slow. So you need stuff that can happen right away. And the trouble with building new railroad tunnels and things like that is that those projects take years to reach peak spending. We should be doing them anyway, but right now you need stuff that has very quick effect. And the two big things are just plain give people cash. We can give probably some cash to everybody, and we can give people who are especially hard hit by this thing extra cash, and give state and local governments in the U.S., which are have balanced budget restrictions. Who are themselves finding themselves cash strapped, they can get aid from the federal government. But at this point is really not about starting public works. It's about giving people money.
What about the Ben Bernanke era sort of thought about helicopter drops?
People, I think, are a little confused about what helicopter drops. But if the audience doesn't know, it's actually something that came from Milton Friedman, who talked about just sending a helicopter out to drop money on people's heads, and as a thought experiment. The Federal Reserve, its counterparts in other countries, they just create money with we used to say a stroke of the pen. Now it's with the click of a mouse. But anyway, they create money out of thin air, but people treat it as real money. The thing is, though, that they don't actually have the power to just give people money. All they can do is buy assets. So when the Fed bails out banks, it does it by buying assets from the banks. And I don't think legally they have the right to just plain drop money on people's heads. But if we ask the question, if Congress votes to give people money, right, and you worry where's the money going to come from? Well, you don't actually have to sell bonds. The Fed can supply that money, or you can sell the bonds to the Fed, which is just another arm of the government. So that's really the trouble. Helicopter money is a fiscal thing. It's strictly speaking within the realm of things that only Congress has the right to do. But but it can be financed by the Fed. So you can't ask Jay Powell to do this on his own. I don't think the law will allow him to. But if Jay Powell and Nancy Pelosi and Donald Trump get together to do it,
Sure.
no problem. We can start it tomorrow.
And then from a technical point of view, do we have to wait for 2 quarters to demonstrate that we are technically in a recession? Or is it fair to say, all indications are, boom, we're there?
Yeah, actually, the U.S. doesn't even use the 2-quarter definition. The U.S. defines recessions. It's a recession if the Recession Dating Committee says it's a recession. And the Recession Dating Committee looks at a bunch of stuff. But at this point, look, we have the real world. First of all, just look around you, right? So, companies are laying off thousands of people, right? And then the early wave, the leading edge of the economic data, the manufacturing surveys, unemployment claims, they all say it's a tsunami. It's if you wait for more evidence, it's like, well, gee, it's funny. The ocean level has kind of dropped out there. I wonder if something's about to happen. There's a giant wave heading this way, and everybody knows it.